What is good, YouTube? It's your boy Miltnificent coming back with another sneaker review. And quite honestly, I ain't gonna lie. I was getting ready to bust out the PS4. I was gonna start playing some video games, and then I hear a knock, knock, knock on my door. UPS came, and I got another shoe to go over. So, if you're new to the channel, I want to say thank you for subscribing. Thank you for at least the subscribers I have. If you're new, feel free to subscribe and like the channel because I have plenty of content. You can see on my channel right now, there's probably over 100 plus videos and counting. So what I want to go over today is the Jordan 1 Defiant. I think it was a shoe that a lot of people slept on, and I don't blame them because of the colorway. The color scheme wasn't bad. It's just the design itself. I didn't think that the Jordan brand kind of marketed the way it should have been, especially if you don't know the backstory to the shoe. That's what I'm going to go over today. Again, I do my videos on the fly. It comes to me naturally. So, anyway, before I get in the shoe, I wanted to kind of point out what I've noticed that Jordan brand is doing. So, what I mean by that is I have 3 different colorways, right? So, you got the Jordan 1, I believe these were the Sports Illustrated, the Jordan 1 Turbo Greens, and the Jordan 1 New York to Paris. Now, I believe this one released this year. Turbo Green was this year, and Sports Illustrated was last year. The reason why I'm pointing this out is because I noticed that there's 3 different types of styles. The majority of the styles that they're releasing. So you have the premium leather, you got the tumbled leather, and you got the synthetic leather. Now, I wasn't sure what Jordan brand was going to release for these Jordan 1 Defiants, but it was limited. It was kind of high priced, but again, once you learn the story behind why this was created, then you'll understand. So anyway, these 3 shoes I have here. Of course, you do have other styles of Jordan 1s that release. You got the, I believe the leather pads. I think that's one form. And then, if I'm not mistaken, you also have, let's see now, the satins. Yeah, the satins that are probably released at least this month, second week. That'll be a high profile shoe. What I'm trying to get at is I wanted to see what the material is for the Jordan 1 Defiance. Is it premium leather? Is it tumble leather? Is it synthetic leather? One of the tests you can do is the toe box test. And what I mean is if you press the top right here, you notice that it takes a while for the leather to pop back up. You kind of have to guide it back until it's original form, but eventually it gets there. You got the tumble leather where you can do that. It's sort of the same thing. It takes a little bit longer, but it's quick and it's fast. And then you got that synthetic leather where it's just literally it pops up instantaneously. So without further ado, let's get into the shoe. Now, before I open this box, I want to let everybody know, I do apologize. This is not a personal pair, so I can't do it on feet for this shoe. This is a size 8 if I'm not mistaken, and I normally wear a size 12.5, but by the time I got to the sneakers app, I went for kind of both sizes, 8 and 12.5, and I hit with 8, but couldn't hit 12.5, so I apologize for that, but we will have the backstory to this. So let's get straight into the unboxing of the Jordan 1 Defiance. Again, this was a limited release, so I'm not sure how many pairs were made total. I know that they had some stores that were, I think it was Foot Action and Foot Locker, that had maybe 200 pairs each, which obviously is not a lot. I mean, this was an exclusive Nike release, so it's pretty dope to have this. And I've never seen a size 8 before, so I think it's going to be kind of funny to see these big boats that I currently wear versus the sizes that some other people wear. I'm just saying. And we got the Jordan 1 normal Nike box. Of course, you got the receipt. The box we'll put to the side. And this is actually my first time looking at the price tag where everything changed. Of course, you know that they have the QR code. The QR, at least the metal portion, or I don't want to say metal, the portion of the QR is actually hidden behind the sticker itself. But you can see right here, it is a size 8. I believe the colors are black, tour, yellow, white, and red. Now, let's get to the unboxing. And quite honestly, whoa, mean, we're looking at this together, and I don't know. What do you think? My first impression is up close and personal is not bad. If I do the same, let's do the test real quick. So if I do the test, this feels like a combination of the premium leather that you saw in the Sports Illustrated and the tumbled leather that I have in the Turbo Greens. It's kind of like a combination between the two. You do have leather on the tongue itself. I can easily see that. But you got to know why this shoe was created. So here's the story. Jordan 1, or Jordan brand, they wanted to pay homage to rock and roll. Now, rock and roll back in the 80s, and even rock, I'll throw rock in there too. They wanted to pay homage to that type of genre because that was the dominant genre of music people were listening to back in the 80s going into the early 90s. Now, if you're wondering why, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people wonder why does the Nike swoosh have this threading and then it doesn't have the actual swoosh? It's in the form of a swoosh, it's just threading. So the idea is that back in the 80s, actually even in the 90s, you had like popular rock star groups like the Red Hot Chili Peppers and then Kiss. So we all know Slash from Kiss for those who were into rock and roll. Not to say I was hardcore, but I knew enough. He wore Jordan 1s back then. So think of the SB Dunks. The SB Dunks were a predominantly skateboarding company, but Jordan 1s were one of the shoes that skateboarders wore. So think of it just like the rock stars back in the 80s. Pretty much the same thing. I think another person that wore it was Flea, and I think he was the bassist for the Red Hot Chili Peppers. I'm pretty sure if you Google it, you'll see back then that yes, they did wear Jordan 1s. This is nothing new to them. So the one cool thing back in the 80s, for those that really weren't an 80s baby, you're kind of like the newer generation, one of the popular things were leather jackets, right? So leather jackets were worn in music videos, tours, I mean, you name it. And so that's where this leather threading, the swoosh, comes from. The leather jacket, the threading that's coming from that leather jacket, that's how they're paying homage to rock and roll, and I want to say pop, because the reason why I'm throwing pop in here is, who do you know, even if you're part of this generation, the previous generation, the generation before, who do you know, music artist-wise, that was famous back then that wore a famous red leather jacket? Michael Jackson, Thriller. So if you remember that video, doing that whole dance theme, that's where you could kind of pay homage, sort of. And that's also what's going to lead me to the medial side of the shoe, where you see the yellow swoosh. Now, it's kind of random because when I saw the pictures, let me just make sure I'm looking at this correctly. Yeah, so on the lateral side and the medial side, you see that it's both just stitching on the right shoe, but on the left shoe is where they have the yellow swoosh. Now, the yellow swoosh is to commemorate the rock stars, the more so like the music tracks, right? So music tracks, when they released, back when there was like tapes, CDs, 8-tracks, I'm joking with the 8-tracks, but mostly tapes, right, and records. You look on the cover, most of the cover, like the font or the background, it had most of them. When they released, yellow was a very popular color back then. So they're paying homage that way. So not just the way that you kind of looked and feel back then in the 80s in terms of the rock and roll, and I want to say pop from the 80s to the 90s, but it was more so the design, the delivery of the album features some type of yellow. Again, pretty sure the two rock star groups that I mentioned, and Kiss and Red Hot Chili Peppers, at some point on the cover of their album, they had yellow, and the form of yellow was just, again, popular. So that's why you see the yellow shoelaces and the red shoelaces to interchange with the shoe. Now, I thought it would have been more dope if they'd have kept this concept with the yellow swoosh and kind of did it on both sides. To me, it just didn't make any sense to put the yellow swoosh on one side, the medial side, on the left shoe, and not do it on the right side. To me, that's just kind of confusing. It's kind of weird. But, hey, that's the whole story behind the Jordan 1 Defiance. Almost lost the train of thought there. But, of course, when you look inside the shoe, And we're going to do that super zoom. So even though I can't give you the on feet, we can still do the super zoom and get away with that. Now, if I pull out the insole, if I can get to it, I'm pretty sure both sides are actually yellow. And here you go. It features the yellow Nike Air Jordan, actually Nike Air yellow insole. It's your basic insole. It's not too thick. It's not like the New York to Paris. The New York to Paris, if you remember the SB Dunk collaboration with Nike Air Jordan 1, I believe their insoles had some type of, it wasn't a huge difference, but it did kind of make a difference. It had a little air in the back of its insole, but you don't have that feature in most Air Jordan 1s. Again, this was a part of the collaboration with the SB, Nike, Dunk, and Air Jordan 1. But this shoe, I don't think is that bad. Again, we'll do the super zoom so you can see it up close and personal. You can see the stitches. If I were to pull on these, I don't feel like I could pull it out. But I think one of the coolest ideas they probably could have did was maybe cut the stitching down to size and maybe kind of look like dots. If you wanted to go about that way, you can still say you did the whole stitching thing for the 80s and the 90s. But I guess they wanted to make it a statement shoe, because in reality, in a world where people will turn their heads just to see what you're wearing on feet, I think that this can qualify as one of those shoes. Not to say like it's the best thing since sliced bread, but it's one of those shoes where people are going to turn around and look, going, WTF. I'll keep it clean. So, your boy Magnificent, let's get to the super zoom, and then we'll see the super zoom version of the actual swoosh. We'll look at the stitching. I think the stitching's on point. You're going to see this up close and personal when I get to it, but stitching's on point. And hey, again, I can't get the on feet, so I do apologize. I do have a shout out to, and you'll see in the description. So watch out for people that just subscribe to me. I can tell who subscribed to me. I'll put your name in the description at the bottom. Check out their channels. You got one that's pretty much up and coming, and I really do appreciate this guy, because I feel like his channel is going to grow into something good. He's young and upcoming. So just your boy Magnificent. Let's get to the super zoom, and then we'll go from there. Without further ado, let's get to the super zoom version of the Air Jordan 1 Defiant. Let's start with the lateral and look at the swoosh in its entirety. Now you can see the stitching here looks absolutely crazy. It's not bad. Again, it's not like a terrible design. I thought that it was pretty cool. I get that, again, this is a statement shoe, but the leather quality, the stitching overall is pretty on point. Outside of the stitching that we're accustomed seeing, that you're probably seeing with the swoosh, the overall stitching is pretty good. Like I said, the leather quality is kind of a combination between tumble and that premium leather that we're seeing, but this is actually pretty good. It's actually pretty good. We're just going around the shoe. Outside of I believe this is the right shoe. Let me actually just jump to the left shoe real quick so you can see what I'm talking about. So there's that yellow Nike swoosh that wraps around back to the heel, and you're coming down. I mean, like I said, the stitching, the quality is good. It's just that I don't think people were ready for a statement shoe that features a swoosh. Let me move the bags real quick. That features a swoosh in the form of stitching for a Nike swoosh. But hey, to each his own. It's one of those shoes that some people are going to love it, some people are going to hate it. We can go at the bottom of the shoe. It's got your standard Air Jordan 1 bottoms. Nothing too fancy here. It's pretty generic. It's just pretty cool to see this up. Super zoom. Oh wait, what is this? What is this? Oh, never mind. Thought that was something. Sorry. Now, the one thing that is cool that people aren't seeing up close and personal is the actual Air Jordan logo that's featured on the heel of the shoe. So you see how the material is actually, it's kind of leather pattyish, right? If that makes sense, if that's even a word. Let's say leather pattyish. Go back to that. But the Air Jordan, the wing is pretty. It's not really a part of the leather. I can tell you that much. But the stitching around it is pretty much on point. But this is the feature of the shoe that I haven't seen on most Air Jordans. As you know, when you're looking on the wing side, typical Air Jordan has that embedded in the shoe itself, but it's not really like that leather pad type feel. Whereas this is more so, it's like it's stitched into the shoe itself. So I mean, I saw on StockX, I don't think that these shoes are going for crazy price. But considering the fact that the material, the story behind the shoe, it's one of those shoes that you're going to collect. Probably if you're an Air Jordan collector, you're probably going to have this in the collection just to say you had it. But again, this being a size 8, never know. For those that did hit on the money sizes, I suggest just maybe keeping it in your back pocket, because I see these shoes selling like crazy on StockX. And the demand is equal to the supply. So I guarantee at some point, for those who really want this shoe in a size 8, or who just want this shoe in general, I suggest, hey, going after it. Again, when you put this shoe on, I can ultimately guarantee this is just a statement shoe, and it will turn heads. So your boy Magnificent with that super zoom view. I hope you enjoyed. Subscribe and like to your boy. There is more shoes on the way. I just haven't gotten them yet, but these are the Jordan 1 Defiants. Thank you, and you have a blessed day.